Hello, I'm George and you're joining me on my boat Liberta in St Martin. This is the second video in a series of videos following me across the Atlantic single-handed. I am just about to lift the anchor and leave St Martin, head up towards Bermuda. I can't prevaricate any longer. I keep finding little jobs to do, but it's midday and I said I wanted to be gone by midday. So join me on this video as I leave and do some sailing. Well, that's it. I'm gone. I've lifted anchor. I have a sail up and that's St Martin behind me. I've stuck in 2 reefs, which is probably entirely unnecessary, but it makes me feel a bit happier. The first thing I'm not going to have to do is put in a second reef. Got to say goodbye to this island, and it's been very pleasant. Having a nice stay. French Caribbean. St Martin, the other half of St Martin is Dutch, which makes it an interesting mix, and great place to fix boats, stock up, do all that sort of good stuff. Doesn't quite have the beaches and things like that of some of the other islands, but it's a super spot to stop. Right, I'm going to go and pull a Genoa out, and I guess I'll catch you in a bit. Well, it's the first night, and I might not do this again because having a light shining right in my eyes is totally ruining my night vision. But we're going well. We've had a couple of ships go past, boats trundling along quite nicely at between 6 and 7 knots. Wind on the beam, which is very pleasant. I did feel slightly Tom Dick earlier, but I think I hadn't eaten enough, so I ate food and then I was fairly okay after that. I feel pretty good now. There were 3 other boats that left at the same time as me, or left just after. I radioed them on the VHF, and one I didn't get a response from. One is going directly to the Azores, and the other one, which is just to leeward of me now, about 3 or 4 miles away, they are heading up to Bermuda. Morning, it's Saturday the 7th, and all is going reasonably well. I've just had the wind pick up, which was nice because I threatened getting the spinnaker out, so that always brings the wind back up. We slowed right down to about 4 knots, but the wind has picked up nicely to about 12, 13, 14 knots, so we're underway again. We have had one slight snag though, but it's fixable. Had my first breakage of the trip. I heard a bit of a bang when I was downstairs when the wind went light and the boom was moving around quite a bit and slappy bangy, but there was a slightly larger slappy bang than the normal slappy bangs, and I've come up the top and I appear to have broken my kicker. The block has given way on the boom because I have a cascade arrangement for the kicker, giving me 16-to-1 purchase, I think. I'll flick the camera around so you can see what I'm talking about. There's a bit of metal hanging about a metre back from the gooseneck on the boom, which is one part of the block, and the rest of it is on a wall down there, so that's not ideal. So I'm going to go hunting for a block and see if I've got a spare that will do the job. Well, I've replaced the block for the kicker and we now have a kicker again. So there we go, that was the block that broke. I've replaced it with a slightly larger one from the parts bin, and there's the rest of it, which was fine. Fortunately it was easy to do, no tools needed, soft shackle holding it down that end I had to take off, and that one just had a little split ring on it which I can undo with my fingers, so easy peasy. With the kicker back working and attached, it occurred to me that explaining what a kicker is and what it does might be useful if you're a non-sailor. or a novice sailor. So I'll talk about that for a minute. There are various controls for a mainsail. That's the sail that sits behind the mast and sits on top of the boom. The primary control is the main sheet, which is attached to the end of the boom. Mine is all the way out there. That's the blue rope there, that's the main sheet. But also attached to the bottom of the main sheet is a thing called the traveller. That slides from one side of the boat to the other. It's controlled with some blocks and pulleys. And you also have the kicker, which I showed you earlier. Now, some people might call it a boom kicker. Other people call it a vang, but it's normally called a kicker or a vang. Maybe there's some other words, names for it that I don't know. So what you're trying to do with these controls is not only control how far in the sail is for the wind direction, but you're also trying to control the amount of twist. So what the main sheet can do upwind is not only pull the main in, but it also pulls the main down. And with the traveller pulled well up to windward, when you're sailing upwind, you can control the twist very effectively. But when the main is let out, so you're reaching or you're running, the boom, or the main sheet on the boom, is being pulled into the boat much more than it's being pulled down. So the top of the main tends to twist off if you don't deploy the kicker. So the kicker allows you to control the twist once the boom is kind of outside the guardrails, or certainly outside of the cockpit and the reach of the traveller. Life afloat is still very much like life ashore. I still have to do washing up and cooking and cleaning and all that sort of exciting stuff. But one thing I have to do every day, which you wouldn't normally do on land, is make water. So I have a little water maker sitting underneath the galley worktop there, which is purifying seawater into fresh water. And I can plumb it into the water tank, but the water tank on the starboard side at least is full. So I am just filling up these drinking bottles, and that way I can monitor much more easily how much water I'm getting through. Morning! It's Sunday the 7th or the 8th, I'm not sure which, one of the two. Anyway, sun's out and the spinnaker's up because the wind has gone aft. It's in a perfect direction to put the big white one up. 108 square metres, a half-ounce cloth that one is. My sailmaker did warn me though, the sail was designed for a race boat. I got it second-hand for my cruising boat, and this thing doesn't exactly accelerate in the gusts like a race boat, so there's always a risk that if I get a big gust with half-ounce cloth, it could just sort of disintegrate. So I just have to keep an eye on the wind speed, but for the 12 knots, 14 knots at times I've got now, it's perfect, and it immediately gave us an extra 2 knots of boat speed over the Genoa. So we are cruising along beautifully. So hopefully we'll be like this for a few hours at the very least. The clouds all look fairly uniform, little puffy things, nothing that looks too ominous. So could have a cracking day under kite here if all goes to plan. Anyway, I think it's time for me to chuck some toast in the toaster and get some breakfast. It's Sunday afternoon, and it's a very pleasant way to spend the day, just sitting here watching the world go by. Big kite still up. We've made fantastic progress. We're now alongside the Dutch boat that had sailed away from us previously since leaving St Martin. It did get about 12 miles ahead, but since putting the kite up we have caught him right up. We're now alongside. He's a couple of miles off to my right. I'm just in the process of deciding whether I leave this big kite up overnight or whether I swap it for the slightly smaller one. The weather looks like it's going to be fairly stable for the next 20 hours or so, but it does look like it might blow up a bit overnight. As always, these things happen at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it is suggesting about 3 o'clock in the morning it's going to go up to 17-18 knots, which in itself is fine, but that's the mean speed. So if it gusts up towards 2022. That's a bit exciting for this big kite, so I think I might swap him for the small one. Anyway, that's the job for after a cup of tea, which I can hear the kettle whistling in the background. There, as I mentioned earlier, I thought it would be a good idea to swap it down from the big kite to the small kite, just because the wind is going to increase, I think, a little bit in the early hours of tomorrow, and swapping kites over in the middle of the night is a bit unnecessary. I'm not racing here, so there's no need to do anything unduly risky. So I got the pink and blue one up, another second-hand spinnaker that I got for a bit of a bargain price. It's a little bit on the small side for this boat, but as a heavier weight or a kind of stronger wind spinnaker, it's absolutely fine, and it's still a lot quicker than having a poled out Genoa. So, just time to tidy up before it gets dark. The sun is going down over there, and I need to think about making some dinner. I did forget one thing. Before I can make dinner, I need to deal with that. Oh well, time for a spinnaker pack. It's Monday morning, and I'm just drying off. As predicted by the weather forecast, the wind has come round slightly more west of south. I was increasingly going offshore, or going the wrong way I should say, going far too right overnight, so I've had to jibe the spinnaker. Well, technically I had to drop the spinnaker, jibe, and then pack and then rehoist the spinnaker, because I used the wrong uphaul on the spinnaker pole, which meant I couldn't jibe, which was slightly annoying, but never mind, it's all done. Unfortunately it was all done in the rain, so I got soaked to the skin, but I'm drying off now. I've just filled in the logbook, and I'm going to see if I can find some more reasons to be hiding down below out of the rain for a little while. Although annoyingly I also forgot to put the preventer on the boom, so that's banging around a bit because there's only 12 knots of breeze at the moment, and with the swell the boom is banging backwards and forwards a little bit, which doesn't sound very nice down below. Anyway, time for a cup of tea and a preventer, and maybe a snooze, because that sounds dry. Well, as you can see, my plan for staying dry didn't exactly work out. The wind shifted massively under these rain clouds, and we were heading the wrong way, so the only option was a very, very, very tight spinnaker reach, which I didn't really fancy, or drop the kite and go back to white sails. So soaking wet kite, soaking wet George, soaking wet everything. It's reasonably dry down below at the moment, so I'm going to go downstairs and dry off again, and wait for this wind to probably shift back, so hopefully I can get the kite back up, if only to dry it, because I don't really like having wet sails in the boat particularly. Anyway, such is life at sea. Wind's totally dying now. Just 10 minutes after my last video I'm recording this, and I think this is just a front that's gone through. Wind is now unfortunately returning exactly back to where it was, which I said it would do. I think there's a metaphor for life here, possibly. Something along the lines of, sometimes you're sailing downwind with your spinnaker up and sun shining, and sometimes you're bobbing about in the pissing rain, going nowhere very fast with slatting sails. But I'd still rather be here than sitting in an office, and the rain will pass and the spinnaker will go back up again. I'm not sure what the metaphor is, but I'll leave that one to you. Well, it's now 9:30 and the spinnaker is back up again. I'm not going to lie to you, this morning's been quite hard work so far. The sun is sort of out, and I need it to come out because my batteries are now down to 60%, having had to use the electric pilot overnight rather than the wind vane. The wind vane's okay with the spinnaker, but I just don't entirely trust it to respond quickly enough. so I tend to use the electric pilot. So I really want the sun to come up. I really want the clouds, which you almost certainly can't see over there. Maybe you can now. There we go, it's got the exposure right. There's a load of cloud behind me which may or may not drop on me, or I might slightly outrun it. I'm going slightly east of my ideal course. I'm doing about 340. I really want to be doing back due north. The wind should, according to the forecast, come round slightly east of south, which would be perfect, but at the moment it's slightly west of south still. So I'm going to see how it goes for a few hours. I can always jibe the kite now I've got the correct uphaul on, or maybe the wind will clock round and do what it's forecast to do. Who knows, we'll see. But for now I could do with a bit of a lie down, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm absolutely shattered. I know I'm not racing, but I just like to keep the boat moving, and doing that on limited sleep is quite hard work sometimes. The rain arrived this afternoon, and it's been slowly getting heavier and heavier. It's now about 7:30 local time, pitch black outside, and joy of joys, thunder and lightning has also arrived. The forecast did suggest that there was going to be some lightning and thunder likely, so I'm trying to put together a few pieces of safety equipment that need to go into a Faraday cage. So I've got an old Quality Street tin actually, which has now got a handheld VHF in it, a handheld GPS, my satellite phone, and a torch. I can hear it rumbling outside now, unless that's the sail. If I did get struck by lightning and everything went down, I have at least the ability to navigate and communicate if I needed to. And after I've finished here, this phone will be going in there as well. The Quality Street tin, being a Faraday cage, should protect anything electronic from being damaged should the boat get hit. And I'll also then put the tin in a microwave, which itself is also a Faraday cage, so there's two levels of protection there. Only one should be needed. If you're a physician, someone could probably explain why that should be. I'm not. I've just been told if there's a lightning storm, put stuff in a Faraday cage, like a boat oven or a metal tin or a microwave. Morning, it's Tuesday the 8th, and I'm a bit tired. But it all is okay. Yesterday ended up being a bit of a marathon of tiredness. I didn't get enough sleep. It rained a lot in the afternoon once I got the kite down. And then the thunder and lightning arrived, which was very exciting. So I ended up having to gather up some bits and pieces, stick them in a tin, stick them in the microwave just to keep them safe. It's not very nice being on a boat in a big thunder and lightning electrical storm, and so I didn't get a vast amount of sleep last night, to be perfectly honest. Wind was up and down, but we made pretty decent progress. I've now gone back to using the wind pilot because the batteries struggled and are low at the moment. I don't really want to run the engine for running batteries unless necessary. It's because it was so grey yesterday, there just wasn't any input from the solar. And with the wind behind, there's not a vast amount from the wind gen either. So the sun is trying to come out today, so I'm going to leave it till this afternoon to decide whether I need to run the engine or not. But the bats currently are about 40%, so if they're not up to at least 60 or maybe 65, I think I would have to run the engine. But right now I need to go and get my head down for a couple of 45-minute snoozes, just to recharge the bank of my M battery. It's just coming up to 5 o'clock on Tuesday, and I had quite an unpleasant experience this afternoon. I got caught out. We were making reasonable progress going to the north, and I got caught out by one fairly large kind of storm cell thing. I can't remember what the name of them is. Basically a big black cloud full of thunder, lightning and 40-knot wind, and I couldn't avoid it because there was another one behind it, and I ended up going straight through the centre of this thing, and ended up having to roll the genoa up, started the engine just in case I needed it, and pleased I did, and ended up kind of motor sailing through it and kind of went round in circles to try and get out of it. I was using the radar to see where it was, and I've kind of lost about 15 miles or so going round in circles. I don't mind admitting I was quite scared, to be honest. I've never experienced anything quite like that. The winds picked up. I mean, the winds weren't ridiculous, but it was like someone had a fire hose on the boat, and I was completely surrounded by thunder and lightning again, and it was and as I was escaping one, another one was trying to chase me down, and I saw a yacht coming on exactly the opposite course, and I radioed him on the VHF, and foreign boat, but he speaks excellent English, and I've spoken to him 2 or 3 times now, and basically gave him some advice to stay well away from that one and the other one, which I was then avoiding, which he's done. He's about 2 miles away, kind of behind me on my port quarter, and he's kind of following me around the trailing edge of the remains of the cloud here, but what was there is all kind of now dissipated to nothing, really. There's a bit of cloud up there. I don't know if it's the camera's going to pick it up, but it's been quite an experience this afternoon, and probably take a bit of processing. I'm now motoring because it's completely killed the wind almost entirely. It's come from totally the wrong direction, but I needed to charge the batteries anyway, so I'm just motoring slowly around what's left over of this this little weather system that I had such a problem with, and then I'll be hopefully in another few miles be able to turn a bit more to the right and continue back on my proper course. Well, it's Tuesday evening, and thunder and lightning hasn't quite had enough fun with me yet today. It's back. Been having heavy rain and gusts, very fortunately not the big winds that I had earlier today. So I'm sat at the chart table looking at the radar, which is here, watching the rain go by. As you can see, I've just missed some big lumps of rain. I go in a little bit. They've been drifting off to starboard, which is good. I've also got a yacht 2.5 miles off the starboard bow. I've been in contact with him since about 4 o'clock this afternoon about the weather situation, and we've both been keeping an eye on it and talking about what we want to do, so that's been quite useful. It's the morning of Wednesday the 11th, about 9:30. Last night was relatively quiet. It wasn't completely without incident. After the second lot of thunder and lightning that came through, I went to bed with the Genoa and the main up. There was a wind shift just about midnight, half past midnight. The alarm went off on my plotter to tell me there'd been a wind shift, so it kind of brought me to my senses, came out, and we were sailing to the wind but in the wrong direction, so had to jibe. Unfortunately, in the process of the jibe, and I tried to do it gently, I broke the block on the kicker again, the block that I replaced earlier in the passage. So I guess it wasn't quite up to it. It only had a fairly lightweight shackle on it, and it's the shackle that's given way. So either I need to replace the shackle or find a slightly better block. Probably doesn't help also that the kicker's Dyneema. There's very, very, very little give in Dyneema, which is why it's such an excellent material in certain circumstances. But having no give just increases the shock loads on something when it bangs or loads up. The other thing that broke, unfortunately, was the second reefing line. When it went across, I suspect it might have been chafing slightly, but it's the second time that I've had that reef line break. It also broke going across Biscay. So I was umming and ahhing about replacing it. I don't know whether I went slightly too thin on it. So I think I'm going to replace it with a slightly stronger rope when I get to Bermuda, and possibly reef one as well, because that's got the same diameter rope. But we'll see. This morning I've been looking at distance to go, currently 188 miles and time to go. Under just white sails, I was pushing my luck to get in there in daylight tomorrow, so I put the spinnaker up. But within about 20 minutes of me putting the spinnaker up, I can see some horrible black clouds over there. And frankly, after yesterday, I lost my bottle and took the spinnaker down again. Those clouds have now predictably gone away. So I need to decide if I put it back up or not. But I think I might have a cup of tea first, because that's very important. Possibly replace that block again. I think I can retie the second reef, because the rope is still hanging out the end of the boom, the frayed end of it, because it's broken where it goes through the eye in the sail. So I've only lost a foot or two of rope. The problem is I've lost a foot or two of rope twice, and they weren't overly long. So I think I can retie it. It might mean that I can't get full main up without letting the line through the clutch and up to the mast. I'm supporting the back end of the sail with the third reefing line. It's not very pretty, but if I turn around and have it looking a bit like that, you can possibly see what I mean. There's the third reefing line up there, just helping support the sail. I need to have a think about how I'm going to pull the boom in whilst going downwind. I should be able to bring it in enough that I can reach the end of the boom and retie it. So we'll see how that goes. Also, the spinnaker pole's at a funny angle because the rope that goes into a valley cleat for the heel fitting keeps slipping in the valley valley jammer. I can't remember what they're called, valley cleat, that's it. I'm not sure if the valley cleat has gotten worn or it's slipped before and it's damaged the valley cleat, but it's an odd thing I'm going to have to look at. But it does mean that I can't adjust the pole very easily. I'm just having to leave it on its lowest position on the mast at the moment, which is not ideal for spinnaker running, but it's okay. But anyway, that's my fun and games. I had a little bit of a lucky find earlier. I go around the boat on deck most days just to check everything looks as it should, and when I looked at the gooseneck, it didn't. This pin here, which holds the pulleys for the reefing lines and the outhaul, that little circlip was hanging on by a thread and the pin was part of the way in, and it wouldn't have taken very much at all for it to disappear, and getting hold of one of those, even just getting hold of a circlip of exactly the right size in Bermuda would have been extremely difficult, so I was quite pleased to have found that. I just took all the loading off the blocks, tapped the pin back through with my thumb over it so I could collect the circlip and then put it all back together again. I can only assume I must have caught something under the edge of it and partially flicked it off at some point, launching a sail. But anyway, disaster averted, because that would have been a real pain if I'd lost that pin or circuit, or the whole lot indeed. I've been a busy bee for the last hour or so, and I have replaced the kicker with a much more substantial block on the boom, which when the boat swings around you can see, there we go. Don't think that one's going to break. If anything, it's a bit too big. I quite like having a fuse in things where I know where things are going to break, and I'd quite like a smaller block there, to be perfectly honest with you. If you know what's going to break when something's overloaded, you can control what is going to break, rather than having an undesirable thing break. I might do a separate video about that, because I think as a technical issue it'd be quite interesting to people who work on their own boats. I've also managed to pull through enough of the existing Reef 2 line to put Reef 2 back in, so that's been re-threaded, re-tightened, so I'm back to a full complement of reefs, apart from I might not actually be able to have full mainsail now, because the Reef 2 line is going to be a bit short to go all the way out. But that is not a major issue. It's rather nice up here, the sun's out, so the batteries are charging. Having done those few little jobs, I'm going to go and have a little sleep, because I'm feeling pretty low on my own batteries at the moment. So little snooze-a-roo pre-lunch would be very nice, particularly as it all looks quite clear up here now. I did a quick calc on time, distance and speed. I need to average about 6 knots to get there, which I'm quite happy doing under Genoa and Main at the moment. So as long as this wind holds, I don't need to put the kite up. I will arrive before or around 6 p.m. Tomorrow. It gets dark around 7, so that would be ideal. I'm guessing customs will be shut for the day, so I might end up having to go and anchor in there, kind of waiting anchorage, but that's completely fine. I'm quite looking forward to stopping now. I'm just looking at the chafe on the port spinnaker guy. The starboard spinnaker guy looks like it's just started to chafe as well, so another job when I get in is to get some braid on braid cover and put that over the top of the existing rope, just to give it a kind of a sacrificial cover, I think. I'm gonna have to start writing a list, I think. Anywho, sleep time. Well, it's about 6 o'clock on Wednesday evening, early evening. The wind's just been going softer and softer, so I have put the spinnaker back up. I was trying to avoid doing it because I didn't really want to, but it's so calm, there aren't any big horrible looking clouds around. I shall probably keep it up overnight. I'll take my bravery pills, and hopefully that will keep our speed up, because we were sort of crawling along at 3 to 4 knots, so it was a bit slow. So at least we're now kind of up to 5-ish, and I can eat my shepherd's pie at a better velocity made good. The only problem is, as the boat is rolling from side to side, the spinnaker is filling and collapsing and filling and collapsing, and it just wrapped itself around the forestay. Fortunately, it just cleared itself as well, which was lucky. So I'm now wondering whether this was such a good idea. We shall see. I shall have dinner and cogitate over it. Haven't seen any dolphins for a while. It's rather a nice treat, just as the sun's going down. Well, it's midnight going into Thursday the 12th, and because we're nearing Bermuda, when I say nearing, it's like 100 miles away, I've been woken up by the wind shift alarm. Wind's gone through 90 degrees, so in my pants I'm scrabbling around on deck with my life jacket on to roll up the Genoa, take the pole off the Genoa, and stick a reef back into the main, so it's got 2 reefs. I've started the engine and put the boat back on course. The reason I've done all that is because of my previous fun and games under some of these clouds, but as we've progressed into this one, it does look like it is mostly just going to be rain and wind, rather than anything more unpleasant, and the wind has only actually gotten up to just a bit over 20 knots, so but it didn't hurt to be prepared. So yeah, we're progressing under engine, back on course, going north. Obviously, you know, these things always come in threes, so a dirty great big ship also is now crossing our path, but he's a good couple of miles away at the CPA, the closest point of approach, so he's going to pass. I doubt he'll see me. I doubt we will see him, just because of the rain outside. It's really misty and rainy and not very pleasant, but not as bad as it could have been. Why do these things always happen at midnight? It's Thursday the 12th of May, and I have 57 miles to go to Bermuda. It's been quite nice to put up the Bermudan courtesy flag half an hour ago. It's one of the things you have to do when arriving in a new port, is put up a courtesy flag and also a Q or quarantine flag. You leave the yellow quarantine flag flying until you've passed through customs and immigration. I may not be able to do that until tomorrow. It depends what time I arrive, but I'm expecting that Bermuda radio will tell me to go and anchor in Powder Hole, which is their quarantine anchorage, and then I'll have to go to customs tomorrow. I suspect customs and immigration will be shut by the time I'm in port. I'm expecting to be in sometime between 6 and 9 tonight. It depends how this wind holds. We're going along quite nicely at the moment. Last night I had an awful lot of rain, had a reasonable amount of wind at times, and then at other times it would just disappear as rain clouds would shoot over the top of the boat. Had quite a lot of thunder and lightning again, about 2, 3 I think in the morning, something like that. I ended up motoring with the main up for quite a few hours last night, just because those clouds going over, the wind was all over the place, and the only way to make any progress really was to use a little bit of engine power, which is a shame, but if I hadn't, I'd probably be 20 or 30 miles back that way, and I wanted just to push on. It's passage making, it's all about getting there, so sometimes you resort to the engine just to push through, and I've got plenty of diesel, so that's not a problem. You have seen an awful lot of the inside of the spray hood, and I'm afraid to say in the next few episodes you're going to probably continue seeing quite a lot of the inside of my spray hood. There's two good reasons for that. One is I don't have a little noise reducing thing to go over the microphone. I'm just using the standard iPhone microphone, and if I leave the cockpit you just get a lot of wind noise, so this way at least you get to hear what I'm saying. Whether it's interesting or not is another matter entirely. The other reason is I don't always want to be dancing around on deck and videoing down below. The light isn't great, so hopefully you're not getting too bored of seeing the inside of my spray hood, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be without it. I took the bimini down for the passage here because I didn't want the windage, and it kind of gets in the way, and early in the passage when it was bakingly hot I was kind of regretting it, and I almost put it back up again, but having had a few big squalls go through and things like that, I'm quite happy with my decision, as it turns out, to take it down. And the spray hood gives pretty good sun protection. I can hide underneath it. It goes quite a long way back into the cockpit, so I can sit at the front of the cockpit and I'm mostly out of the sun, so a good spray hood and or bimini are really worth having on your cruising boat.
Carry on. This is Bermuda Radio 27, go ahead.
I can see Bermuda. It's over there. I can't show you because you won't see it on the little lens, so it's very exciting. It's a bit like the feeling I had when I was a kid and I knew my auntie and uncle or some other family friends were coming with their kids, and I was just desperate to go and play with their kids, and but I knew they were coming and they were just not quite there yet, and I was sort of running around the house not really knowing what to do with myself, but knowing I was about to have a load of fun with some friends. That's what it's a bit like, because I'm really looking forward to stepping on land. I have good memories of Bermuda when I was here last. It's a lovely little island, well, collection of islands really, and I'm really torn between spending time on the boat getting all the bits and pieces done that I need to get done to leave and go across to the Azores, and maybe, you know, hiring a scooter and just scooting around the island and enjoying myself. So I'm going to have to see how I feel after a couple of days and a bit of sleep. What are we on? 7 miles to the waypoint, nearly there. It looks like rain, but up ahead there is what's called Town Cut, which is the entrance to St George's Harbour. It's very narrow, so you have to be in contact with Bermuda Radio, who will control traffic if a cruise ship was coming in or out, because there simply isn't room for anything else to come in or out when there's a cruise ship going through. I've just spoken to them again. They've allowed me access. I can go straight onto the customs dock and hopefully do the paperwork and get straight out to anchor before that horrible lot of rain comes, because I think it's going to get me. I don't think I'm going to be quick enough, but full speed ahead. Well, you can't see me, but you can see Bermuda. Been to customs, done all that, come out, found a spot to anchor, drop the hook. That's all I'm going to do today. I need to stick some food in the face and then go to bed. Welcome to Bermuda. It is Friday the 13th. I'm pleased I arrived yesterday and not today, given the superstitious nature of that date. It's a lovely place, Bermuda. I really enjoyed it last time I was here. I'm really excited to go explore ashore. I pumped up the dinghy already this morning, just having my second cup of tea before I jump in and go for a little walk. But yesterday, checked in no problem, having come through the cut and spoken to Bermuda Radio. The guys in the customs were really friendly. Not friendly enough to give me a hand parking. I still had to do a reverse park on their dock on my own, but I didn't mess it up, so that was all good. It's nothing like an audience to focus the mind. If you like this video, do press like. It helps me, helps other people find videos like this. Also, if you want to see more of my videos, press the subscribe button. It helps build my channel. It means you don't miss out on any of my videos. So the last video, if you're interested, covered my preparation for coming across. That was based out of St Martin, and my next videos will cover maybe a bit of time here in Bermuda getting ready to push off again, and also my crossing from here, the big one, my crossing from here nearly 2,000 miles across to Horta in the Azores. So fingers crossed that all goes well. I've got a few jobs to do here in Bermuda. I've got some ropes which are chafing and a few other little minor pieces to deal with, but nothing too significant. Thank you for joining me. I've really enjoyed having someone to talk to. It saved me talking to inanimate objects, although I still talk to the boat occasionally, and I gave her a big well done when we got here and thanked her for looking after me. And hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.